Hi everybody, it's time for Rogues Reads. I am Renee, I'm the Children's Librarian at Salem Public Library in Salem, Ohio, and I have called my co-host Rogue several times now, and he's not showing up. So apparently he took the day off. He didn't let me know he was going to do that, so I'm going to have to fire him. He's not being a very good co-host here lately. Daisy Ray is here, but she's taking a nap, and actually so is Griffin. Really, it's sleepy time at my house. But anyways, so yeah, this is Rogues Reads, our virtual book club for kids in 4th to 8th grade. This is the last week of our book club. We'll go through Friday. I'm not doing any programming next week, but after that, we should be picking up with some different programs for the summer. And we hope to let everybody know what's going on with summer as soon as we can. We've still got a few little details that we need to work out, just because everything's so different this year than anything we've experienced in the past. So please be patient with us, and we'll let you know as much as we can as soon as possible. We do have some good stuff coming your way. We just need a little bit of patience from everybody. Our curbside pickup is available if you need books or movies or music or anything. Put it on hold by giving us a call or visiting our website. Put your stuff on hold. They'll call and let you know when it's ready. You pull up into the library parking lot and give us a call. We'll bring it right out to your car. So you don't even need to get out of the car. We don't even want you to. We want you to stay in your car, stay where you're safe, and we'll bring your materials right out to you. So if you're in need of books or movies or whatever, let us know, because we'll be happy to get you some stuff to read and watch right now. So let's see. So we're getting there. We have been reading The Genius Files by Dan Gutman. This is book 3, You Only Die Twice. And I'm running a little long on this one this week because I want to make sure we finish it before Friday. And we've only got 4 days left, and I want to make sure we've got enough time to read all of it. So I may run a little bit long, just trying to make sure we get it all in. And you know, we were promised on like the very first page about Coke going into a shredder, and it hasn't happened yet. I'm starting to think the shredder doesn't exist. Yes, it's in the second sentence, but getting thrown into a giant shredder was not one of them. But there's still no shredder. I really hope we find a shredder soon. Well, we finished yesterday. Oh, that's right. Evil Elvis threw this little statues from south of the border onto Coke, or tried to, and Pep knocked him out of the way. Evil Elvis is just, I don't know. I feel like he has the opportunity to really hurt them, but he's not really trying very hard other than throwing things on them. So it's kind of like he's teasing them or something. I don't know. I don't think I like Evil Elvis at all. And let's see. Oh, they bought fireworks at the fireworks store. Dad told them the story about Blackbeard the Pirates. But as they were going to sleep, they started hearing music. It was Evil Elvis outside their camper with a boombox playing Elvis Presley music. That's weird and creepy. Call the police if something like that happens. I know there's, this is a fake story and it's all made up, but if that happens to you, please call the police. Let your parents know that, because that's not normal. I don't like that at all. Anyways, let's start chapter 21, A Gift. When Pep woke up the next morning, the first thing she did was go outside and look for any signs of anything suspicious. Sure enough, taped to the exterior of the RV right near her window was an envelope. Pep ripped it open and found a slip of paper with this written on it. Oh, it's another cipher. Let me see it. I knew it, she said as she ran inside to show it to her brother. What does it mean? Coke asked. I don't know, Pep replied, yet. The family got a late start that day because Mrs. McDonald did a load of laundry in the campground washing machine, and Coke did a dump to clear out the RV holding tank. Finally, around 10 o'clock, they left south of the border and were on I-95 south again. A billboard said, "Pedro's sad that you are leaving." Dr. McDonald hoped to make it halfway across South Carolina to Columbia before lunchtime. It would be a little more than 100 miles. As usual, Mrs. McDonald had her head in a guidebook. "We could stop off at the Rice Museum in Georgetown," she mused out loud. "Please tell me that the Rice Museum is named after somebody named Rice," said Coke. "Jerry Rice, the football player, Condoleezza Rice." "Actually, no, it's a museum about rice," said Mrs. McDonald. "No," the kids shouted. "They can't have a museum about rice," Coke whined. "It can't be true." It was true, but much to the relief of Coke and Pep, their mother did not insist on visiting the Rice Museum. Pep took out her notebook and examined the cipher that had been taped to the RV in the middle of the night. OGOTHTLEVINIRGOOM. Coke opened his backpack and read over the instructions that came with the fireworks he had bought. When I-95 intersected with Route 20 near Florence, South Carolina, Dr. McDonald pulled off the road and into a service station. It was one of those big ones with a dozen pumps and a convenience store. "We need to gas up," he announced. "Why didn't you gas up when we were south of the border?" Mrs. McDonald asked him. "There was a gas station there." "I forgot, okay," he replied. "I'm not perfect." "Are you and Mom fighting?" Pep asked from the back seat. "No." Dr. McDonald inserted his credit card into the slot on the pump to pay for the gas. "Card denied," flashed the little screen as the credit card popped back out. "What? Is there a problem, dear?" asked Mrs. McDonald. "The stupid machine won't take my credit card," he replied. He tried again, and again the card was denied. Mrs. McDonald hopped out and went to see if she could help. An attendant saw that they were having trouble and came over. "There must be some mistake," that Mrs. McDonald told the guy. "We just used this credit card just this morning, and it was fine." "Take it into the office," said the attendant. "They'll take care of you." Dr. and Mrs. McDonald walked purposefully to the office around the back of the gas station. Most people don't carry around a lot of cash in their wallets. To a grown-up, a credit card is sort of like a life preserver. If they lose it or can't use it, they're sunk, especially if they're far from home. Coke and Pep went back to what they were doing, but suddenly the front doors opened and two grown-ups got in, and it wasn't their parents. It was Bones and Maya. "Bones!" shouted Pep. "Maya!" shouted Coke. "What are you doing here?" "We realized we were wrong," Bones said. "We told you that you were safe and that you didn't have to worry anymore." "Your lives are in serious danger," said Maya. "Someone is trying to kill you." "Gee, you think?" Pep said sarcastically. "Yeah," Cook said. "We kind of figured it out when my sister had a chest of drawers dropped on her head and she was kidnapped by an Elvis impersonator." "Where were you?" Pep said, her voice rising in anger. "I thought you were going to help us. You never do anything for us." "I'm sorry," Bones said sincerely. "We've let you down, but we came here today to make it up to you." "We brought a present," Maya said, reaching into her bag. "What is it?" Coke asked. "Another bottle of bubbles, some more bars of hotel soap." "Thanks for nothing." "You've been asking us to give you a weapon," Maya said, "and we didn't want to because you're so young, but we thought it over. And now that we've seen the way you've handled yourselves, we think you're ready." Coke threw a look at Pep, shaking his head to tell her not to let Bones and Maya know about the arsenal of weapons they had purchased at the fireworks store. Maya pulled a blue Frisbee out of her bag and handed it to Pep. "You're giving us a Frisbee?" Coke asked. "Oh, gee, thanks." "It's not just any Frisbee," Bones told him. "It's a Frisbee grenade." "For real?" "This is just like the one you used in Washington to blow up Archie Clone's helicopter," Maya explained. "It's only a little heavier than a regular Frisbee, but it's packed with sophisticated electronics and plastic explosives. This is the on-off switch here on the inside of the lip." "Wow," Pep said, cradling the Frisbee grenade in her arms like a baby. "You've earned it," Bones said. "There are just two things I need to tell you about the Frisbee grenade," Maya told Pep. "First of all, it can't get wet. If it hits any water, it won't work. Got that?" "Yeah," Pep said. "Second thing is, it detonates upon the second impact. So if you want to blow something up, you have to skip the Frisbee off the ground first, or have it ricochet off something. Do you know how to skip it?" "Sure," Pep said, making a mental note. "One more thing," Bones said. "This thing costs $50,000. So be very careful with it. It's not for playing catch, it's not for target practice, and it's not for fun. It's for defending yourselves if your lives are being threatened. You get just one shot with this thing, so make it count." "I will," Pep vowed. "Thanks, you guys," Coke said. "This really means a lot to us, but you better get out of here. Our parents will be back any second." "I'm going to stop right there. Maya and Bones don't work for the Genius Files anymore, right? Because Herman Warsaw went crazy and then they were like on opposite sides. So how do they have access to this technology? That's a little weird. I don't know if I trust Maya and Bones completely. I don't know. We'll continue. We'll see what's going on here. All right. Don't you worry about that, Maya said. There's nothing wrong with your father's credit card. We arranged for it to be denied, so they would have to go to the office for a few minutes. As soon as we give the signal, your parents will be told everything is fine with the credit card. Clever, Coke said. Hey, before you go, Pep said, pulling out the slip of paper with the latest cipher on it. Do you have any idea what this means? Bones and Maya looked at it but could not decipher the message, and they gave each of the twins a hug and said goodbye. A minute later, Dr. and Mrs. McDonald returned to the RV. Is everything okay? Coke asked. Yeah, his father replied. It was just some dumb mistake with the credit card company. Are you kids okay? Couldn't be better, Coke replied. It was true. Even though Dr. Warsaw was alive, Mrs. Higgins couldn't be trusted. The Bowler dudes were psychotic, and evil Elvis was out there determined to get them. Coke was feeling pretty good. If anybody tried to mess with him or his sister, they would be in for a big surprise. He and his sister had enough firepower to take out a small tank. Now they were armed, as they say, to the teeth. Oh, we're good. Right. Chapter 22, Accidents Happen. You're probably getting a little impatient, maybe even a little angry by now. On the first page of this book, you were promised that Coke was going to be thrown into a giant shredder. And so far, we have encountered no shredder. Not a shred of a shredder. You have every right to be mad. Promises should be kept. But trust me, dear reader, your patience will be rewarded soon. Interstate 20 starts close to the gas station where the twins met up with Bones and Maya. It cuts all the way across the state of South Carolina and doesn't end until it reaches West Texas. The highway looked like it stretched ahead to infinity, so Pep pulled out the cipher she had been puzzling over ever since she received it that morning. It looked so easy, but she couldn't seem to crack it. Then, as they were driving through Lee State Park near Bishopville, South Carolina, she figured it out. Pep noticed that when the first four letters, O-G-O-T, were reversed, it spelled out to go. To go very probably meant to go, or Togo, very probably meant to go, which possibly meant go to. Go to would be an obvious way to start a message. So if reversing the first two letters made sense, and reversing the next pair of letters made sense, what would happen if she reversed all the pairs of letters after that? So she wrote it out in her notebook. Go to the living room, Pep shouted. What are you talking about? Her father said from the driver's seat. It's an RV. We don't even have a living room. Nothing, Dad, Pep said. I was just having a dream or something. She leaned over to show Coke how she had figured out the cipher. Go to the living room, Coke whispered. What's that supposed to mean? Beats me. As the highway unrolled endlessly in front of them, each person in the family was deep in thought. Pep tried to figure out what go to the living room meant. Coke was trying to figure out how he would be able to use the fireworks he had purchased as weapons without hurting anyone in his family. Mrs. McDonald was trying to think of a way to convince the rest of the family to visit the Button Museum, which was right nearby. Yes, it's a museum about buttons. Look it up if you don't believe me. Ugh. And Dr. McDonald was thinking about his next book. He had to admit that the last one he had written, The Impact of Coal on the Industrial Revolution, had been a bomb. Oh, it had sold a few thousand copies and received some nice reviews in scholarly journals, but hardly anybody had read it. He wanted to write something that millions of people would read. Working as a university professor was rewarding, but what he really wanted was to see his name on the bestseller list. I was thinking that I should try something more commercial next time, he announced to nobody in particular. I should write a biography of somebody really famous. I thought you'd already decided you were going to write a biography of Herbert Hoover, dear, said Mrs. McDonald. He was going to write a biography of President Hoover, but that was before they visited the Hoover Historical Center in North Canton, Ohio, and found out that it was the home of the guy who owned the Hoover Vacuum Cleaner Company. I changed my mind, he replied. Nobody cares about Herbert Hoover. Even I don't care about Herbert Hoover. Soon they started seeing road signs for Columbia, the capital of South Carolina. Stomachs had started rumbling, and it would be a good time to stop for lunch. Mrs. McDonald decided not to mention the Button Museum to the rest of the family. She had another idea. Take exit 73A, Ben, she said. It's coming up on the right. What's there, he asked. Trust me. She directed him into the heart of the city until they reached Taylor Street, and he pulled into the parking lot of the Ag First Farm Credit Bank. And there it was, right in the middle of the parking lot. "Behold," announced Mrs. McDonald with a sweep of her arm. "What is it?" asked Pep. "What do you think it is?" said her mother. "It's the largest fire hydrant in the world." "You gotta be kidding me," said Coke. But Coke's mother wasn't kidding. "Oh, sure. There's a 25-foot fire hydrant in Beaumont, Texas, and a 29-foot fire hydrant in Elm Creek, Manitoba. But this one was 39 feet tall and made of 5 tons of steel set in a concrete base." Even Dr. McDonald was impressed by the sheer grandeur of it. "Why do they have an enormous fire hydrant in the middle of this parking lot?" asked Pep. "They must have some really big fires around here," Dr. McDonald remarked. "Or some really big dogs," said Coke. Mrs. McDonald was awestruck and rushed to take photos and jot down notes for Amazing But True. "Now I want to show you something even more interesting," she said, stepping out of the RV. "Follow me." Coke grabbed his backpack and Pep took her Frisbee grenade. They had decided to bring their weapons with them wherever they went, just in case. "You don't need that stuff," Mrs. McDonald told them. "We're just going up the street." "I want to take it, Mom," said Coke. "You heard your mother," said Dr. McDonald. "Leave that stuff here." Reluctantly, the twins left their weapons in the RV and walked around the corner to the other side of the parking lot. "Behold," announced Mrs. McDonald with another sweep of her arm. "What is it?" asked Coke. "It's tunnel vision." What else could you call it? Painted on the wall of the Federal Land Bank building was a spectacular mural depicting a tunnel that had been cut through mountain rock with the highway curving through it and into distant hills towards a brilliant orange sunset. The mural, which is 50 feet high and 75 feet across, fills the wall of the building. It's so realistic, they say, that birds will sometimes fly into it. The McDonald's stood in wonder. I'm going to assume that's definitely going to look better in person, or if you look it up on online. I'm sure we can get probably a color picture. Cool, amazing, incredible, awesome. "And who would think," said Mrs. McDonald, "that two such amazing things would be a block away from each other? And that's why I wanted to come to Columbia." She moved back so she could take photos of tunnel vision. Coke and Pep went up to touch the wall just to make sure it wasn't a real tunnel. "It's such a great optical illusion," Coke said. "I feel like I could walk right through the mural, just like on those old Roadrunner cartoons." At that moment, at the other end of the parking lot, a light blue Ford Escort was revving its engine. It shifted its drive, started rolling forward, and began picking up speed. It was heading straight toward the wall. The car got up to 40 miles an hour before anybody noticed that it was going awfully fast to be in a parking lot. It wasn't until it reached 50 miles per hour that anybody noticed it was heading straight for tunnel vision. "Coke, watch out!" Pep screamed as she grabbed her brother's arm and yanked him out of the way. Mere milliseconds before the car slammed into the wall at the exact spot where he had been touching it. Boom! The impact caused the front end of the Ford to crumple like a cheap accordion. It collapsed into itself in such a way that the driver's seat was compressed to a few inches. Smoke poured out of what used to be the engine. Fragments of the former windshield flew in all directions, and a siren sounded in the distance almost immediately. "You saved my life again," Coke said to his sister as they lay on the asphalt a few feet from the smoldering wreck. Their parents came running over. Strangers came running over too, some to offer help and others just to gawk. In less than a minute, a police car and ambulance had arrived on the scene. "You okay, son?" asked one of the cops as Coke got up and brushed himself off. "Anything broken?" "No, I don't think so," he replied, his heartbeat still well above normal. "He missed me by a few inches." "You are a very lucky young man," the cop told Coke. "One more second and you would be dead right now." "That's the third time it happened this year," said the cop's partner. "This mural is just too realistic. It's a public hazard, I say." "We better go see how the driver made out," so the first cop. "This ain't going to be pretty." They ran around to the other side of the smoking car to pull the driver out. The car had been crushed so badly that you couldn't even see the driver from the outside. "No one could survive that," one of the cops said, grabbing his walkie-talkie. "Better call the morgue." You never want to see another human being die, especially in such a tragic manner. But the twins were willing to make an exception in this case. Secretly, Coke and Pep hoped the driver was Evil Elvis, or Mrs. Higgins, or one of the bowler dudes, or maybe even Dr. Warsaw himself. If those creeps were out of the picture, it would be the end of their problems. But when the cop managed to stick his head into the driver's side window, he found something even more surprising. There's nobody in the car, he said. What? Said his partner. That's impossible. It must be remote controlled, said the first cop. You know, one of those new high-tech cars that drive themselves. I'll be darned. Never seen anything like that before. Do this job long enough, you'll see everything. Mrs. McDonald peered inside the car for herself, just to make sure the policemen were right. Why would somebody drive a remote control car into a wall, she asked. I guess they didn't think it was a wall, said one of the cops. They thought it was a tunnel. Coke and Pep didn't mention to the police that whoever was controlling the car knew full well that they were driving it straight into a wall, and that they drove it straight into a wall specifically because Coke was standing in front of the wall. Nobody would ever believe that. A tow truck arrived to haul the crumpled car away, and gradually the curious onlookers left. The police wrote out a report and told the McDonalds they could go. Oh, excuse me. You kids certainly are accident-prone lately, Mrs. McDonald said. One day, a chest of drawers nearly falls on Pep's head, and the next day, a remote-control car almost slams into Coke. Yeah, Pep said weakly. Those were pretty amazing coincidences. As they walked back to the RV, Coke had a look on his face, a look of steely resolve. Do you think it was Evil Elvis? His sister asked him. Oh, I'm sure it was Evil Elvis, Coke replied. I'm going to get him for this. The McDonald's stopped off at a nearby Subway for lunch and then got on I-26 west out of Columbia, which cuts right through Sumter National Forest. Mrs. McDonald was searching in her guidebook and on her laptop for a campground somewhere near the Georgia border. Can we stay somewhere that has a swimming pool? Asked Coke. Yeah, we never get to go swimming, Pep said. Most of the campgrounds Mrs. McDonald found were located in state parks or next to lakes, and they didn't usually have swimming pools. Oh, this place looks nice, she said, showing them a photo in the guidebook. It says here they have a babbling brook that runs the length of the campground. We don't care about brooks, said Coke, babbling or otherwise. They have a well-manicured nature trail, Mrs. McDonald pointed out. We don't care about nature trails, said Pep. You kids are tough to please, their mother said. They have a horseshoe pit, a volleyball court, pool table, propane station. We don't care, the twins said as one. And they have a swimming pool, Mrs. McDonald shouted. Yes, they have a swimming pool. Yeah. It's a few minutes from Greenville, nestled in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, said Mrs. McDonald, and it says here that you will feel so relaxed and removed from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Oh, please, please, can we go there, Pep begged. Dr. McDonald took I-385 up past Greenville and the Poinsett Highway past Furman University into the small town of Travelers Rest. It wasn't hard to find Valley Park Resort. It was exactly as it had been advertised. Babbling brook, shady trees, beautiful mountains. Can we go swimming? The kids asked almost as soon as the RV pulled into the parking lot. Go, Mrs. McDonald encouraged them. Swim, have fun. The twins quickly changed into their bathing suits and followed the signs to the pool. It wasn't exactly Olympic-sized, but it would do. A sign at the edge of the pool read, "Warning, no lifeguard on duty. Swim at your own risk." Geronimo! Coke shouted as he cannonballed into the deep end. Pep carefully waded in at the other end, and they met in the middle of the pool. After their automobile accident at Tunnel Vision, the twins thought that taking a swim would calm their nerves, and it did. After a fierce splash fight, Coke and Pep rolled over and floated on their backs, looking up at the sky. There's something about being surrounded by water that makes a person feel safe. Maybe it reminds us of what life was like in the womb. And yet, at the same time, it was hard for Coke and Pep to get Evil Elvis out of their heads. He was a different kind of criminal. Like a cat that likes to play with its prey. It seems like Evil Elvis enjoyed toying with them. Oh, which is what I said a little bit ago. Why else would he put Pep's feet in soda and tell her it would eat away at her flesh? Why else would he hide outside their RV in the middle of the night playing Elvis music? Why else would he dig a giant pit in the ground for Pep to fall into? He could have killed them anytime he wanted to. But he seemed to enjoy taunting them, and he seemed to have an unlimited amount of time and money to do it. The twins, of course, finally had some weapons they could use to defend themselves, but they still had a big disadvantage. They didn't know where or when Evil Elvis was going to strike. How do you get back at somebody if you can't find him? These are the kinds of thoughts that were buzzing around in the twins' minds as they relaxed in the pool. After floating on his back for a long time, Coke rolled over to do a dead man's float, and when he opened his eyes and looked under the water, this is what he saw written in large red letters on the bottom of the pool. MOOVRETHTOGO. Another cipher. So we are running long, but yeah, our next chapter's pretty long. So I think I will go ahead and stop there today. We're not going to finish the book if I do. Okay, I'm going to continue. We'll do one more. Like I said, we're just going to run long this week to make sure we get them all in. Chapter 23, More Lame Museums. Oh no, not another one, Coke said underwater, the bubbles pouring out of his mouth. Moovrettthogo. What could that possibly mean? Coke showed his sister the letters at the bottom of the pool and quickly memorized them. As soon as they climbed out of the water and towed off, Pep wrote the cipher down on a blank page in her notebook and got to work. She figured that before anything else, she would try the same strategy that had worked on the last cipher. She reversed the first two letters and reversed the third and fourth letters. O-M, O-V, O-M, O-V. Well, that didn't mean anything. This would require a bit more thought. Pep resolved to work on it more seriously later, and if they had decided to go swimming, it occurred to Coke that they would have never seen the message left for them at the bottom of the pool. How was it, he wondered, that evil Elvis was able to send them these messages so easily? He had to know exactly where they were going to go and when they were going to be there. Then he had to get to that location first, plant the cipher, and leave. Coke scratched his head and remembered. The computer chip. Way back in California, when they had first joined the Genius Files program, GPS devices had been implanted into both of their scalps. Their every move could be tracked. And there was no way to remove the computer chips. How evil Elvis managed to write letters on the bottom of the pool filled with water was anybody's guess. We've got to tell Mom and Dad what's going on, Pep told her brother as they headed back to the RV. Honesty's the best policy. Don't you remember what Dr. Warsaw told us after the wedding? Coke replied. He said if we say one more word about any of this to our parents, he'll kill them both. Oh, yeah. Despite everything that happened in South Carolina, the twins somehow managed to have a relaxing dinner and get a good night's sleep in the morning. Oh, Rogue is here. Rogue, kitty, kitty. You have abandoned your co-hosting duties? Yeah. You don't care about Coke anymore? He's not very sympathetic. All right. In the morning, the McDonald's pulled out of Valley Park Resort around 9 o'clock and made their way to I-85 South. The Blue Ridge Mountains appeared hazily in the distance, and it wasn't long before the McDonald's started to see a lot of water out of the windows on both sides, as well as people fishing, boating, and water skiing. It was enormous Lake Hartwell, which has 962 miles of shoreline. The lake was named after Nancy Hart, a woman who almost single-handedly captured 6 British soldiers in the Revolutionary War. Oh, she sounds interesting. They were going over a long bridge when a sign came into view. Welcome, we're glad Georgia's on your mind. Georgia, site of the 1996 Olympic Games. Woohoo, Coke shouted, the Goober State. Why are peanuts called goobers anyway? Mrs. McDonald asked, figuring one of them might know the answer. It's one of those mysteries of life, replied Dr. McDonald, like what happened to Amelia Earhart. Hey, maybe I should write a biography about her. Actually, Coke said the word goober was an African term that was brought to America by slaves before the Civil War. Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All, said Pep, rubbing her eyes. Aren't you going to regale us with some obscure trivia about the state of Georgia, honey? Asked his mother. Coke had to search his memory for a moment before he was able to come up with anything. Georgia is the nation's #1 producer of the 3 Ps, he finally said, recalling a copy of the Weekly Reader from 2nd grade. Peanuts, pecans, and peaches. Everybody knows that, bonehead, Pep said with a snort. Don't call your brother a bonehead. Oh yeah, Coke replied. Well, the Georgia State seashell is the knobbed whelk. That's more like it, son, said his father. Pep rolled her eyes in disgust. State seashell? By the age of 13, many kids take an active interest in where they go on a family vacation and even help their parents plan out the trip. But Coke and Pep were still pretty much content to let their parents take care of these details. Mrs. McDonald, in particular, seemed to really enjoy doing the research by herself and setting the agenda. What do they have in Georgia? Pep asked. Yeah, where are we going today? Asked Coke. Oh, it's a secret, Mrs. McDonald told them. We're going someplace very special to one of you. You'll find out when we get there. Salem, Coke mumbled under his breath to his sister. Like a lot of twins, they had developed a shorthand way of communicating information they wanted to keep private. SLM stood for Some Lame Museum. It was just as well that Coke and Pep didn't know where they were going. With those computer chips implanted in their scalps, if they were to mention any location, they could be tracked more easily. I will tell you where we're not going, said Mrs. McDonald, looking through her guidebook. The world's largest peanut monument in Ashburn, Georgia. It's too far out of the way. Bummer, said Coke. I really want to see that. The Lunchbox Museum in Columbus has more than 2,000 metal lunchboxes and 1,700 thermoses, said Mrs. McDonald. That could be very interesting to see. Can we go? Oh, please, Pep begged, not all that convincingly. Maybe next time you go cross country, said Dr. McDonald, when I'm in the old folks' home. Then there's the U.S. National Tick Collection in Statesboro, Mrs. McDonald continued. They have a machine that freeze-dries the ticks and coats them with gold for better viewing under a high-power microscope. Ticks are my favorite bug, Pep remarked. They're adorable. Yeah, and I bet you're a big fan of Lyme disease, too, Coke told his sister. Cordell, Georgia is the watermelon capital of the world, Mrs. McDonald said, closing her book, and Claxton is the fruitcake capital of the world. But both of them are far to the south of where we're heading. Fruitcake needs a capital? Asked Coke. Dr. McDonald pulled off the highway for a quick detour to the small town of Hartwell, Georgia, which was also named after Nancy Hart, but that's not why the McDonalds went there. The RV stopped alongside a historical marker and a stone monument. I will show you there, but it's a center of the world. The Cherokee Indians called the spot Ayeli Alohi, and I'm sure I said that wrong. My apologies, said Mrs. McDonald, or the center of the world. Many different trails radiated in all directions from this hub. Hub? Coke said with a snort. They should have called it the middle of nowhere. Where's the gift shop, Pep asked. This place is lame. That's the problem with kids these days, Dr. McDonald said. You have no sense of history. When I was your age, we appreciated what happened before our time. I can name every state in the Union and all the state capitals, too. Yeah, Dad, Coke said, but there were only 13 states back then. Oh, yeah, his dad's not that old. Leaving Hartwell on the Livonia Highway, road signs began to appear for Gainesville, Georgia, which calls itself the chicken capital of the world. That's not a thing to brag about, Coke said. Apparently they have a large number of poultry processing plants there, Dr. McDonald noted. Please don't tell me you're going to take us to a poultry processing plant, Pep said. I will vomit. Hey, you should know what goes into the making of your food, Coke said. We are not going to take you to a poultry processing plant, said Mrs. McDonald. We're not even going to Gainesville. Thank you, said Pep. We're going to the Gourd Museum. No, both kids shouted. Wait, are you kidding me? Coke asked. Do you mean those gourd things that people put in baskets for no reason around Halloween time? Yes. They have a gourd museum? Asked Pep. And that's the special place we're going to today. No, the Gourd Museum is on the way to the special place we're going today, said Mrs. McDonald. Sounds fascinating, Coke said. Can't we just drive off a cliff instead? The kids might not have been happy about it, but Dr. McDonald steered the RV along a series of small roads, passing through a part of the Chattahoochee National Forest, until he reached Duncan Bridge Road and the Gourd Museum. Can we wait in the car, Pep asked. This place looks like it's going to be boring on steroids. Yeah, we don't care about gourds, said Coke. Suit yourselves, Mrs. McDonald said as she grabbed her camera. Someday you'll regret that you came all the way to Sawtee, Georgia, and you didn't go to the Gourd Museum. I guess I'll just have to live with the guilt, Coke said. After her parents got out of the RV, Pep pulled out her notebook and got back to work on the cipher they had seen at the bottom of the swimming pool. She thought about it for a long time. Then she noticed the last 4 letters, Togo. She remembered that the previous cipher they had received had started with the same letters, but backward. Oh, God. That couldn't be a coincidence. That had to mean something. So she wrote out the entire cipher backward. Then she started reversing each of the letter pairs, the strategy that had worked on the last cipher. Go to the TV room, she shouted. TV room, asked Coke, who had been looking over her shoulder. She worked. What TV room? Do you think they have a TV room in the Gourd Museum? Pep asked. They were about to hop out of the RV to find out when their parents came strolling back to the parking lot. Oh, you kids missed a good time, said their father as he opened the driver's side door. I haven't had so much fun since the time we went to the Spam Museum, said their mother. Mom, do they have a TV room in the Gourd Museum? Asked Pep. A TV room? Mrs. McDonald said. Of course not. But they have 200 gourds from 23 countries. It was fascinating. You should have seen the artwork created by the gourd artist. Gourd artist? Asked Coke. As her father stared up at the RV, Pep turned to a blank page in her notebook and wrote the 2 ciphers they had received. 1, go to the living room. 2, go to the TV room. It just didn't make any sense. Yet. I'm not quite to the end of this chapter, but... Alright, I'm going to read fast to the end here. Leaving the Gourd Museum, the McDonald's got back on the road and drove right by Gainesville without stopping to look at any chickens. Dr. McDonald merged onto I-985 heading south, was soon merged with I-85. Gradually, the woods, lakes, trees, and mountain scenery of North Georgia started giving way to buildings, traffic, and road signs indicating the number of miles to Atlanta. I'm hungry, Coke said. Can we stop for lunch soon? Way ahead of you, Mrs. McDonald said. And before they reached the Atlanta city limits, she instructed Dr. McDonald to pull off onto a street called College Avenue. A few minutes later, they were rolling into the Waffle House parking lot. Waffle House, shouted Coke. I love Waffle House. Oh, this isn't Waffle House, said his mother. Sure looks like a Waffle House, Mom. No, it's the Waffle House Museum, she said triumphantly. No, say it ain't so, Coke protested. What's the big deal, asked his mother. We went to the Gourd Museum, we went to the Spam Museum, we went to the Mustard Museum and the Pez Museum. What's the problem with a Waffle House Museum? I'll tell you what the problem is, said Dr. McDonald. We have too many museums. Everything isn't important. Everything doesn't deserve to have its own shrine dedicated to it. They probably have an air museum somewhere. Thank you, Dr. Grumpy, said Mrs. McDonald as they parked the RV outside the Waffle House Museum. Why don't you lighten up a little and have some fun? Coke slung the backpack full of fireworks over his shoulder, and Pep grabbed her Frisbee grenade. Do you really need that stuff? Dr. McDonald asked Coke. I'm taking it, Dad. Coke remembered the last time he didn't take his weapons with him. A car nearly ran him over at tunnel vision. Fine, Dr. McDonald said, throwing up his hands. He was still upset at the Dr. Grumpy remark. The twins walked a few paces behind their parents. Keep an eye out, Pep whispered. This is just the kind of place where evil Elvis would show up. Trust me, Coke whispered back. If he's behind the counter here, I'll blow this place to kingdom come. As it turned out, evil Elvis was not behind the counter. Instead, the McDonald's learned how the first Waffle House opened at this spot in 1955. Now there are more than 1,500 Waffle Houses all over the country, and each of them is open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They don't even need to put locks on the doors, Coke noted. Wow, Pep said as she read from a display case. It says here that if you stacked up all the sausage patties that Waffle House serves in a day, it would be 4 times the size of the Empire State Building. That's a lot of sausage. The museum was actually quite interesting, but now the family was hungrier than ever. Fortunately, around the corner from the Waffle House Museum is a Waffle House. They walked over and were enjoying a perfectly normal, pleasant family meal up until the moment that Coke received his second apple cinnamon waffle. As he picked it up and was about to bite into it, he noticed that this was burned into the perimeter of the crust. 20-12-7-12-11-22-11-12-12-15-9-12-12-14. Oh no, he said. Numbers. The ciphers were coming fast and furious now. And it is more than past time to be done for today. Hopefully that'll keep us on track to finish the book by the end of the week, because I really want you guys to know how this one turns out. It's really exciting, actually. Still no Shredder, though. Rogue did show up, but I think he's left again. He's fickle. I'm going to have to fire him. Rogue, Friday's your last day. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon. Bye.